Alright guys, this is part 3 now in the building your domain controller and setting up your business network, I guess. So now we're gonna start getting into the designing of the Active Directory structure and all that. I said in the last video that I was gonna install the secondary domain controller, so we might as well get that out of the way now. So all we do for that is the same process as installing the first domain controller. dcpromo.exe. Yeah, I'm skipping the domain binaries. It's going to install everything right here. I'm not going to go through the other process of going to server manager and all that. If you're unfamiliar with setting up Active Directory, then just check my channel, and I got a bunch of videos on installing Active Directory. Alright, so it finished doing its binary install. Finished installing Active Directory, so now we're just going to go ahead here and skip that first compatibility NT4 page there, and we're going to go to an existing forest now, because we already created our first domain controller, and now we're just making a secondary, not a backup. It's just a secondary domain controller, so we can lighten the burden on this domain controller if we want to. Redundancy, fault tolerance. If this domain controller drops for some reason, then people can still log into the secondary. So add a domain controller to an existing domain, or create a new domain in an existing forest. So what this would be is, in the other video you see me where I had marketing.technology.com. This is where we would go to select that. And then we would just type in, the primary domain controller, and then next, and then the name of marketing. But for our case, we're just installing a primary domain controller. And then type the name of any domain in the forest where you plan to install this domain controller. So technology.com, and go set. And we need an administrator for that, so again, administrator now for the domain, and hit next, and it's just going to select the domain for the forest root and default first site. Just examining DNS here. Well, did that ever take a while? So yeah, now we're back here, and let me just close that out of there. Okay, so now we're back, and right here it's going to select additional options for the domain controller. So we don't have to select DNS, but as this is going to be a secondary domain controller, we are going to set it up as well as a DNS server. So if anything does happen and the first domain controller fails, at least they can resort back to this, and global catalog as well. Yes, this computer has a dynamically assigned IP address. That's what it says here, but in reality we don't. We have a reservation from DHCP over here from other domain controllers, so I'm just gonna ignore that, and no, I will sign, just go yes, I'll use it. And again, the delegation, and again, we're going to put our folders on a new hard drive, and for this computer it's a whole separate drive I've installed on it, so it'll be a little bit different process here. The other one was just splitting the partition. This is a whole new drive, so it's going to say unknown, and it's down here, so we're going to have to activate it. So put it online. Okay, it's not initialized, so initialize disk. Disk 1 is this disk here. If we had multiple, they'd be here. You can select them all, and master boot record, hit OK. Okay, so now it's a basic disk, unallocated, but you need to convert it to a dynamic disk, so you can put NTFS on it, and new simple volume, hit OK, hit next. We're just going to assign the whole space of the hard drive here is going to be assigned, and it's going to be E and we can label it, I don't know, whatever you want. Data, doesn't really matter what you want to name it, that's up to you. Hit next and hit finish. Just gonna allocate it, and there we go. So we got our NTFS partition, it's healthy, it's good to go. So we can close down out of server manager and open it back up here and create our folder. So active directory, and I'll go ahead and close that, go to browse, active directory, and copy that, put it there, and change that over. And there we go. So now we have our folders on separate hard drive from our startup. And again, process is the exact same as setting up our first domain controller and reboot on completion. So I'm going to let that go, and I'm going to explain a little bit about our Active Directory setup here, our OU structure. So what that's going to be, it's going to be an Active Directory, users and computers. And we're going to want to expand this. We're going to be using this quite often, so get familiar with it, you know, practice with it, do what you guys want to do with it. And I'm just going to go through a few things here. I'm not going to get into the full design capabilities of it because it's going to take a while. So I'm just going to explain these and create, you know, our administrative account so that, you know, the IT staff that started this can start doing their job and designing stuff. Okay, so our built-in accounts here, these are for groups pretty much, and you can just assign your other IT department into these groups, but I recommend just leaving these groups and creating your own groups that do like the same thing as this, and then add that group into these groups. So what that does is it centralizes your administration. So the easiest way to centralize your administration is just to ask yourself a pretty simple question: is who do you have, or who is allowed to access that folder, or who is allowed to remote desktop? Well, if you had to go into here and check out the members of remote desktop and you had to read off, you know, 50 different people who can remote desktop, well, then you're doing something wrong in your structure. When you go to this, your members, you should be able to say, oh, okay, the level 1 and level 2 administrative groups can access remote desktop. Okay, so then it kind of it segregates and it centralizes your administration. And moving on here, your computer container here is where all your computers will get stored to on default. You can change this, and we will, but for now, whenever a computer gets added to the domain, it's going to pop up here. We have none yet because no one has joined our domain yet. We got our domain controllers. As you can see, we got our first domain controller and we got our backup domain controller. It is on the domain, but it's not considered a computer, so that's why it's in the domain controllers. And as you can see, this little symbol here kind of looks like an hourglass or a folder or whatnot. That indicates an organizational unit. These here are containers, and you can't put, you know, policies on containers. So you can put policies on organizational units, but not containers. And these are the built-in domain-wide user accounts. Okay, so our forced administrator, let's say, is you know, gonna be, you know, domain user, domain administrator, enterprise admin. He's gonna be everything. Schema admin, that is the main role of the forced administrator. The schema is pretty much the skeleton of your Active Directory. Like I said, if you want more information, you can go back to my other video and watch that. So what we're gonna do now is you need to determine, when you're designing your Active Directory, you need to determine a couple things here. So you need to first of all determine the structure of your Active Directory design. So in our last video I told you we had a Barry location and a Timmins location. Okay, so you got two ways you can design your Active Directory structure here. You can design it by region, so we can go Barry and then start listing off all of our organizations. So from here you can put like management, sales. These aren't going to be the proper names here. I do have a list that I've been designing here for our structure. So for instance, let me just find it. Alright, so for instance, we got sales, we got marketing, we got developers, we got a whole bunch. We got call care, inbound and outbound, and then these are all gonna reside, and there's more, but these are all gonna reside in the Barry OU. Okay, and then we're gonna have another Timmins OU that's gonna have the departments from the Timmins side. So they'll have like supervisors. There's not gonna be management in Timmins. The management's gonna reside in Barry because Barry's the central location. Timmins is just a branch location, and the branch location is gonna hold the read-only domain controller. Okay, but moving on from that. So that's the way we're gonna do it. But there's other ways you can. For instance, let me just erase this here. So yeah, we got our Barry and our Timmins group. So for instance, you can just have all the departments listed under tech knowledge. Let's say, start the OU like that, and have all the departments, and then inside you can just have all the users. Doesn't really matter where they are, But in our case, we're gonna use the more structured way. So we're gonna have a Barry OU and a Timmins OU. And OU is just short form for organizational unit. So we talked about the structure. So the structure, like I said, is going to be we got Barry, and then we got Timmins, and all of our organizational units are going to go in there. So next we got our administrators. So like we were talking about earlier, Paul St.Onge, he's gonna be the schema admin, forest admin, like he's gonna be everything, domain admin. He's gonna have full control over the whole domain. And then we're gonna have other user accounts. I don't have anything yet. We can just make up names, I guess. So David and Vinny, and let's say Chris. These can be the other administrators, and let's say Vinny and Chris are our help desk. So they're gonna have resetting passwords, unlocking accounts, and all that. Well, they're not gonna have forest administration rights and schema administration rights. They're gonna have what's called delegated control over the organizational units, like Barry and Timmins, let's say, or not even let's say just the agent OU, because the agents is gonna be the majority of the users and all that. So we're gonna have to segregate administrative control over who gets what, and but like I said, we'll get into that as we start designing the scheme. I just want to make it really clear as to what I'm doing here. So those are going to be our administrators. Might not be those names exactly, but there's going to be a help desk admin, you know, for resetting passwords, unlocking accounts. And David here could be our programmer, so he could be good at doing the SQL and taking care of SharePoint. You know, he can have some server permissions, like, you know, backups. He'll be doing all the backups and, you know, clearing logs and all that, updating. And Paul is just going to be the top dog. He's going to be who delegates control to everyone else. So yeah, to make an organizational unit, let me just check the time here on this video. We're still okay. So to make an organizational unit, and like I said, we're going to be using the regional structure, I'm going to call it. So to make an organizational unit in the technology hierarchy, I guess you want to call it, we're going to just right click on it and go new and go to organizational unit. And what we're going to do is we're going to want to make a standard organizational unit that represents our company here, just in case you know, in the future we buy out another company here. Well, we can set up you know, another organizational unit called like other domain, you know, and their resources are going to be listed there. So but that's not going to be the case right now. And one other thing I want to show you is if you ever go to delete and you get this, you don't have submission privileges, and you're like, what the hell, you're on with administrative account, it's new features in Active Directory. It's so accidental deletion doesn't occur. So you just want to go to view and put on advanced features, because without it you go to the properties here and you don't have much options to kind of delete that folder here. So you want to go to view and put on advanced features, and then we can click on other domain, right click, go to properties, and now we can see here we got our security tabs. You got managed by an object, and you want to go to the object and deselect protect object from accidental deletion. Hit apply, okay. Now we can right click and delete, and that's that. So that's gone. So now we're going to set up our OU structure. So we're going to right click and go new organizational unit, and we're going to call this one Barry, and we're going to make another one called Timmins. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the recording here and create the OU structure. That's all I'm going to be doing for the next probably 10 minutes is right clicking, new, and then organizational unit. But you do that inside of each OU. So now if I want one in Barry, I click on Barry, go to new, organizational unit, and we can call this one information tech. Okay, so you see how it branches down from the Barry, and that's very important for group policies. So your OU structure here really dictates how well your group policy works. So I'm just going to pause this and continue building that. Alright, so after like 40 minutes of right clicking and clicking on organizational unit, I'm finished, and it's getting late, so bear with me here. But this is what I've done. So I've started off with our tech knowledge headquarters organizational unit, and I branched off to Barry, Timmins, and groups. And within Barry we have our main headquarters. So this is going to hold most of our departments here. So we got our agents, so we got our users who take inbound calls for like service calls, you know, complaints or issues or troubleshooting. And then we got our outbound dialers for, you know, trying to get new service, you know, trying to sell our product and all that. We got developers, you know, obviously developing our products and everything. We got users and workstation organizational units. So what's good about these this way of organizing it is you can put all the workstations for the developers inside of here, for instance. So, and have the users inside of the developers only able to log into workstations located in the developers OU. So it prevents, these users, walking over to the finance department and logging in from their computers. So, and it also just, helps with administrative control. That's the point of your organizational structure here, is just to ease management, ease the administration control. The users, however, have no idea where they are. They don't know what's going on here. You can label these whatever you choose to. This is just for your IT staff, and maybe your manager might want to have a copy of it. Who knows? The owners. And I got all of our departments listed here. Pretty straightforward. Users and computers in humans and resources. I put health and safety in there as well. For our admin organizational unit, I put our management, because they're going to want to have better control over, they're going to want to have, full access to everything. Then I just got our servers here, so it's going to hold of our servers. Our users, it's going to just list all the IT staff we have, and our workstations. It's going to just hold, like I said, all of our workstations. The organizational units here are just containers for the users and objects. The groups is where we're going to start to delegate control, let's say. Not really delegate control, but make groups for, these departments and users and everything. And so that just continues like that. And with Timmins, we got, Timmins is just an inbound call center. About 45 agents in there, and a couple, maybe one are management, and then supervisors per agents, So that's pretty much it for the structure of the two locations. Now the groups is pretty well simple. We got our users. So we got our call care users, regardless of their inbound or outbound. Their groups will be in here, and they'll have their own permissions, and their computers are going to be locked down. And then I got departmental users. So anybody who's in a department, from these here, like developers and all that, well, we're going to want to give them a little bit of more access, their own personal hard drive, so they can store things on the drive that is centrally located on our file server. So we have control of backups, and we don't have to worry about backing up the individual computers. We just got to force the users to save into that folder. That's pretty much the hardest part. So that's all that's set up. We got our management, because they're going to want to have more access than everybody else. And then we got our IT, our information. So we got our help desk admins, so they're going to have a couple groups here. And we're going to have our server administration. So we got our backup servers. We got a list of all of our servers here. So it's going to just have groups on the servers and all that. That's where our groups are going to be put into. So just to demonstrate how to create a user and assign him to a group and all that, we're going to create Paul. He's the management leader, so he needs an account. So we're going to create him, and he's going to be located in Barry, information management. And to create a user, you just right click in the pane here, or you can right click over here and go new, hit user, and our first name is going to be Paul, and St.Onge. And the user logon name, that's what he's going to use to log on to with his account. And we'll get into changing the UPNs and all that. But for now, we're just going to have a password. And it's for testing, I'm just going to have it selected like this way. But in real life, the administrator doing this right here would be Paul. So he would know his own password. But to set up passwords for other agents and other users, you'd want to have user must change password at next logon and provide a temporary password, because that protects you from them ever saying like, well, you know, the IT team had my password and they knew it, so maybe they were the ones that stole all that documents. No. So they're going to have their own passwords that only they know. We can unlock it and we can reset it. That's about it. So we're going to hit next and just finish. So there's our user. I'll do a couple little basic things here. Set a description. IT manager. You know, we don't really need to go through the address. The account. Is the account locked? No. And then here we can change the password settings. Profile, we can connect to a path soon when we set up our file server, but for now, nothing. Organization, job title. Department for tech knowledge. And there you go. That's just a couple of things you can fill out. But the member of here, so you can see as of now he's only a member of domain users. So to give him some more control, we can go to add here and we can browse our groups. So when you create groups, they'll show up here and you just browse to them through the name. So if you're unsure, you can hit advanced there like I just did. And what your object type here is, you're looking for groups or built-in security principles. You can change this if you want to, but because we're assigning him a member of, it's going to be a group, because he can't be a member of another user. And common names, you know, you can, you know, you're not too sure, so it can start with, let's say we're looking for something in the domain, so domain, and then you can hit find now and it'll produce all the domain accounts that start with domain anyways. So you can just hit you know, domain admin, hit OK. It's gonna check the name. You can separate that with a comma and go enterprise, and then it'll bring up the other enterprise, anything else that's enterprise, starts with enterprise, so we want admin. And there we go. So he's we can also give him schema. So he's the schema admin, the enterprise admin. He is everything that needs to be. And we're gonna hit apply, and there you go. So everything's done for Paul. He's ready. He can start. We can start using his account from now on. And I'm going to end this recording. And the next recording, we're going to, I guess, set up our file servers and the rest of our servers. Okay. All right. See you guys then. Thanks for watching.